ever thought about how you operate and how many parts of yourself, which parts of yourself you actually chose to be, and how many parts of yourself are simply built in response to the pressure of life, to the pressure that is going on around you? I think that this happens more quietly and subconsciously than we realize. We so quietly and subconsciously that we don't ever really see a shift, but maybe one day you wake up and you notice, wow, I'm actually really impatient in situations that never used to bother me. Or maybe you find my brain just feels busy all the time. Even when I'm resting, I can't quieten the noise. Or maybe you sit on the sofa and your body still feels like it's in the kitchen, or your mind is on tomorrow morning, or it's already halfway through next week's to-do list. And it's exhausting. And we haven't chosen to be like this, and yet it starts to feel normal. You adapt to this way of being. That is what human beings do. We adapt to environments. We adapt to expectations. We adapt to emotional climates, to now this crazy pace that we live at. And we have got used to the pressure we live under every single day without even acknowledging it or even being aware of it. And after a while, this rush and this pace and this pressure just becomes familiar. And maybe there was a time where we were hyper vigilant about some things, we were careful about some things, and now we are just responsible. It's the right thing to do everything, to carry everything, to hold everything. And it's the right thing to do. And if we're honest, it even feels noble sometimes. Because actually, if we're honest about it, we get rewarded all the time for being this person who does so much. I see this all the time with the women that I work with. I coach the most capable, smart, thoughtful women. They are high functioning in the eyes of everybody around them. They are doing all the things. They're leading teams at work. They are remembering birthday cupcakes. They're replying to emails while they're at hockey practice. They're running the whole circus. And yet, there is often this kind of sense of disconnection from themselves, from how they operate, that they find difficult to explain. They kind of feel they can't quite grab a hold of that disconnection. But it's almost like they have lost touch. They can't quite hear themselves anymore over the noise of everything you are managing. And this is because pressure shapes identity over time. It's not like there is this huge dramatic movie scene change, but it happens through repetition, through what I call emotional rehearsal. And this is where you find yourself practicing the same internal states again and again and again until your brain becomes incredibly efficient at practicing responsibility, practicing capability, practicing being good. You practice the states that make you feel like you are safe, like you are loved, and like you are acceptable. So what might that look like? So maybe it's the state of urgency. It's the state of replying to everything immediately because that is responsible and it makes you feel safe to be the responsible one. Maybe it's overthinking. Maybe it's people pleasing. Maybe it's self-monitoring and self-editing. Maybe anticipating everyone's needs before you even begin to think about your own needs. The nervous system, your nervous system, is a very, very clever system. It learns patterns remarkably well in order to protect you. That is it's part of what makes us so incredibly resilient as human beings in the first place. We survive by adapting, by learning what keeps me safe and what puts me under threat. But there is a difference between adaptation that supports your life and adaptation that shrinks it. That adaptation that creates overwhelm and exhaustion and anxiety and possibly in the long run, eventually burnout. What happens is that we end up believing that certain stress responses are simply our personality, that emotional rehearsal of that state of people pleasing, that state of perfectionism, that state of being good is the real deal. So then we just start to label ourselves. Well, I'm just an anxious person. Oh, I've just always been like this. Oh, I'm just bad at resting. I don't know how to switch off. I've always just been responsible, and on and on and on. But maybe your system became incredibly skilled at surviving in a world where you had to meet expectations and demands in order to be praised and feel acceptable. And so instead of those just being a part of who you were or who you are, they are just survival strategies to be loved, to belong. That lands differently for me. Does it land differently for you? Because if something has been learned, if something has been practiced and reinforced over time, if it's become a learned pattern, then how exciting is this? Surely that means that a new pattern can also be built. A new pattern can also be learned. Your brain can change. Emotional habits can be shifted, can be rewired. And the one thing that starts this process of change is awareness. Awareness, noticing, observing, curious, being really interested, is the very thing that interrupts that autopilot we are on that has come from the emotional rehearsal we've been practicing. So it can be really slow at first. Sometimes it's really awkward to notice, to be more aware, especially when it's the first few times that we're like, ooh, that's interesting. Oh, I don't know if I like that. This feels a little bit uncomfortable. And we aren't sure what the outcome is going to be, but we're noticing. And I think this is where the conversation around stress management as a thing or as a concept and resilience as a concept becomes much more interesting than the watered down version than we are often hearing in the world today. You know, we listen to this idea of stress management around bubble baths and getting up early and exercising and drinking green juice and manage your stress better with breathing and mindfulness. And yes, these have their place, but it's almost as though we as women are just these malfunctioning machines who simply forgot that we just have to have a bubble bath and we have to meditate and we have to drink some green juice. Real resilience is far more internally experience than carrying out these external, valuable, but still external practices. And resilience is most visible for you when you are able to pause before you react, or you are able to stay connected to yourself during pressured times, pressured circumstances, instead of simply abandoning yourself to your reactivity, to your people pleasing, to your perfectionism in order to cope with that pressure. Part of resilience is recognizing an old protective pattern that you have learned through that emotional rehearsal while it is happening, and then choosing something different. Maybe if it's just briefly, maybe it's for a moment, a minute, just once, for a short time, and then you do it again and again and again. You do practice a new emotional rehearsal until that is the state that you have rehearsed enough times that your brain knows a new way in which to be efficient, a new way that serves you instead of sabotaging you. This is what helps you recover faster. This is what helps you think more clearly, make better decisions, be more able to perform at your best. And in this way, what a relief. You no longer build your entire identity around being useful, being responsible, being capable, but find yourself feeling so much more peaceful, so much more at ease, that you actually are more useful. You are more capable. You perform so much better. I talk a lot about building the mental muscles of resilience, and this is exactly it. This is teaching your brain that it has an internal structure, an internal scaffolding of certainty, of clarity, of steadiness, that knows that it is safe without needing to prove, without needing to perform. And the joy of this is that it just ripples out everywhere. It ripples out into your leadership, whether that's at home, whether that's at work. It ripples out into your relationships, your parenting, your creativity, your decision making, your health, all of it. And what is encouraging is that that first step of awareness changes things. It may not be instant. Aha, I wish. Look at me, I'm different. But once you start noticing that version of yourself that has been shaped by the pressure that you are under, the pressure that mostly comes from your own beliefs about who you need to be, then you begin relating to yourself differently. Then you, as I said earlier, you become curious. Then you become more compassionate. You become more understanding. And then you have a little bit less shame and a little bit more choice about how you operate. That is usually where meaningful change, where transformation begins. It's not about being better or driving yourself with harsh self-improvement or becoming some kind of shinier, perfectly regulated woman who drinks lemon water at 5 a.m. and never loses her patience in traffic. It all begins with that one fundamental skill in the skill set of resilience, and that is curiosity. Curiosity about the patterns that you've been living out. Curiosity about what your very clever, very beautiful, very protective nervous system learned to do for you that you no longer need anymore. Curiosity maybe about who you might become if that pressure stopped being the loudest voice in your head, and you stopped working so hard to prove that you are good enough, that you are capable enough, that you are responsible enough. Take the pressure off. Let yourself know in little moments of the day that you are enough. And oh my goodness, how things will change.